So I'm privileged this morning. I'm proud to be a part of this with you because we get to look at and celebrate some modern day heroes who are out all over the world doing God's will, often with very little. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. I don't want you to focus on me. I want you to focus on these modern day heroes. So I'm going to step back down and talk about some of these guys. The total that we paid out last year as a group and church body was $32,690, and we're proud to do that. So let's look at where this money is going. Here's the different missions we've supported. Alfred and Ruth Dacke in Ghana, David and Lori French in Zambia, Sakom Hunt in Cambodia, Salvador Correaga in the Philippines, John and Ellen Jumas in Cebu, Philippines, Adrian Contreras Kalinga and Jadalte Memu, his wife, in Mexico, Sunset International Bible Institute, the General Funds, and in Ukraine, EEM, Eastern European Missions, that Josh was just talking about, that our girls have really stepped up with. And then also we've got S&R, Search and Rescue Missions and Ministries out of Edmond, and they are doing work for widows and the orphans in India. So the first one we're talking about is Alfred Dacke and Ghana Missions, Ghana, Africa. They've been there 25 years. His church, his ministry there is called Village of Hope. And he's celebrating, like I said, 25 years this year. Here's Alfred with his family during the celebration. Here's some of the other missions and ministries he does. He does a lot of women's ministries. He does instructions on how to do distance learning. He also does balancing marriage and life, and he does radio broadcast and internet broadcast. Alfred has produced about 8 different preachers at 8 different churches over there over the 25 years. But the radio broadcast and the New Information Center is in a local area of a market, so it's going to be very fruitful there as well. Here's his building, and it's a multi-purpose building, so they're able to not only meet there, and you'll see some more slides, but also do food distribution there. There's a severe drought in Ghana, so there's going to be a great need there. Here is one of his vehicles delivering food to some of the widows and people who are shut in. And then on the right-hand side, there's a recent widow. Her husband was just killed. So she has approached Alfred for help. Alfred has a Village of Hope orphanage. And so, as sad as it may seem, her baby is now at the orphanage because she cannot support the baby. So they are helping her with another family while she is going through this hard time in her life, and then she will come back when she can support her child. On the right, they're back in the building, and he's giving worship service and Bible study to the children in the orphanage. And the eventual outcome is very fruitful. Alfred is very, very fruitful. They're down at the river, and they're baptizing. One of the things that he always does is an encouraging word. He put this out. It says, the power of increase. Anything that stops growing is dying or is dead. So keep that in mind. He's a very powerful speaker. The next one is also in Africa. It's David, Lori, and Karen French, and they're in Zambia. Another great ministry. He's produced about 6 or 7 different churches over there as well from different preachers. He's got his own preaching school. He's got the students there, and he's got, I think he graduated 12 this last year. And we also have a children's song practice on the other side in the same building, notice. Here's the Bible college, new incoming freshmen and their families, and then there's the Christian school as they're getting ready to start their curriculum. Their daughter Karen that we saw on the first slide runs the orphanage and the smaller kids. So these are 3 orphan children who had nowhere to go. They were on the streets, and they bring them to David and Lori and Karen. Right now they have a preschool fund set up. They are only charging them $3 a month to go to their private school. Otherwise, they would have nothing. And through their website, ZambiaMissions.org, if you want to sponsor a child, it's $16.50 a month. And you can see me later if you want more information on that. They gave conferences there for the churches of Christ in that area, and you can notice that was a pretty full building. On the right-hand side, they give a spiritual transformation class that was part of that. It was a breakout session. And then, what's our fruit? There it is. Into the water in Zambia, putting on Christ in the river. The next man that we have, David and Lori have been here as well last year, but Stockholm was here in the fall. Very, very powerful story with Stockholm. I encourage all of you to look at what he's done. He was a Cambodian soldier at one point and had to be evacuated out of the country to the United States, and he found Christ when he was living in Dallas over at Walnut Hill. He became an elder and a preacher over in Dallas, and then felt compelled to sell everything and go back to Cambodia and serve his people. So this last January, they witnessed and taught 600 students in 5 different seminars with Randall Dias out of Waxahachie and Mike Meerhofer, who is also at Walnut Hill. They gave leader care seminars, which are very interesting. They invite all religions to come and listen and introduce them to Christ. Even Buddhists to learn about Jesus. They had 52 students after these visits who were baptized into Christ in January, just in January, in this one movement and this leadership seminar. They're teaching near the border with Thailand. It's a really rough area. There's not a lot of infrastructure there. Near the end of the trip, they hosted a seminar with about 175 Bible students. They had a medical mission going on at the same time. They provided 3,332 treatments in that time. These are people who would have no medical care. They baptized, this is from the fall, and I didn't get a number on that, but there were several, and this is when they'd first come back from the mission in the fall, and then, like we just said, 52 more in January. Then our friend Salvador Carriaga. Known him for a long time. And notice the shirts that the girls are wearing. You seen those before? Some of the supplies that we shipped out of here in the containers, communion, pews, Bibles, songbooks, and the singing over there is great. He's also developed a Arapel college along with the Arapel school. So he's gotten that certified, and he's getting his directors and his staff installed. These 2 graduates here from the Cebu Roosevelt Memorial College both attended Arapel School. And now they're going to come back and work at the college. One of the things that is prevalent with the Philippines and with Ghana and with Zambia is they want preachers from their country to stay there, learn how to preach, and continue to preach. The other thing is all 3 of them teach agriculture. Why do they need to know agriculture? So they can eat, so they can be self-sustaining. So here's the Arapel entrance and his vocational school. Here's his Bible college students and VBS. And they're teaching VBS on the side of the road in a street. But do you notice what chairs they're sitting in? Those little plastic chairs, they came from here. We were loading those into the containers. Here's the vocational and preaching school graduates. And here's their vocational school building where they learn how to do a lot of the things for planting and for agriculture, which we're going to see some more. And then their school of vegetables. They will grow these seeds. They get heirloom seeds, and they will grow these in their greenhouse and then transplant them once they're seedlings into the field. So here's them clearing the fields, and on the right, some of the cultivating and harvesting in the same fields, the before, during, and after shots. So he wants them to be able to self-sustain. Part of that is this goat milk dairy. Salvador, for, 30 years, has been a proponent of ranching goats, for lack of a better term. So he found out that if you could get a family a goat, then they could self-sustain themselves as well there. They wouldn't starve to death because they would have the goat milk. And what does a goat eat? Anything. So they're in good shape. So Salvador went one more step. To help the city and the towns around them, he determined that he could turn it into a goat dairy and bottling center. So there's all the goats being fed, and then the bottling, which they have milking machines just like a cow, and they're bottling the goat milk. They have a new label with their name on it that goes to, and this milk goes to the local school districts, and they also sell goat milk bath soap to raise funds and help buy food. The interesting thing was on Friday afternoon, I got a text from him, and it was showing a picture where they received an award from the government because they had produced 2,000 and something bottles of milk in a week, and they were all, and when they were tested, they were all above grade. They were all very good. So they won awards from the local governments and from the federal government over there to continue doing what they're doing. Here's our containers being loaded, and this guy was out there in 102 degrees. I don't know if anybody's seen this guy before, but he's a hard worker, and we really appreciate him. Here was Easter Sunday service. There was 350 people attending Easter service there. So that was a mixture of different people coming together. And what was the outcome? Well, there's Salvador preaching on the left. And what was the outcome? What was the eventual outcome? Fruits, baptisms. People in the water. And he said, a tree will be known by its fruit. And that's the ocean they're baptizing in there. John and Ellen. We know them as John and Ellen, but her official name is Marilyn Jomo As. And they're in Cebu. They originally started 14 years ago with Salvador. He is one of their offspring. They started another church down on the coast, and they were celebrating their 14-year anniversary over there. They had to rent a pavilion and a building so they could get everybody in because their building's not large enough. Here's John preaching. John likes to preach. Here's the Bible class and a ladies' Bible study. He's doing both of these. He has a study built up because of his reputation with firefighters, police, and the government leaders. So he's very well trusted in the area. He's a good man. Ellen is doing a ladies' Bible study, and on the right-hand side, John is talking about an intentional Christian walk spiritually. So they also do a prison ministry. If you'll notice on that back wall, on that slide on the left, that's people's faces who are inmates. They're feeding them, and they're ministering to them. They do a men's and a woman's prison ministry. And what's that on the right? Anybody seen those before? That's your fish bracelets. Who makes the fish bracelets? The lady prisoners. About 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, their building was badly damaged. You see the whole back end of it was damaged by a typhoon. On the picture on the right, there's a dripping, a running faucet. Why is that important? That is the first time they had water was in December, running water in their building. How would it be here if we didn't have heat, air conditioning, or running water and still worship? They did that for about 12 or 14 years. They have running water. It was a happy day there, and we were able to help them get that done. I understand there's a toilet sitting there now. So imagine that predicament. So there's the building. It's been repaired, and they're using it. They're preaching in it, and they're having Bible class in it. They have a children's Bible study. That's the teenagers on the left, and younger children on the right. And then here's 2 more being baptized. 2 more, and this one's in a swimming pool. The first one was in the ocean, and then 1 more in the ocean last Sunday. They just sent me this one. So they're very productive. And I just want to mention this to you. Right now, we're the only congregation supporting this ministry. So if you know of any other churches that are looking to help missionaries, they are fruitful, and they're doing hard work. Adrian Contreras Colunga and his wife Gidalte Memu are, I got to look at my notes. They're halfway between Monterrey and Mexico City. San Luis Potosi is near where they're at. They're in the middle. Yeah, there's not much there. But he's doing very fruitful work, but it's a dangerous area. So he is sending us this message. I translated it from Espanol to English, and he's talking about having a good year, this great spiritual blessings he's had, some of the difficulties. He's lost his grandmother and 2 cousins, but he's still going to continue serving the Lord. He's gone on trips, and he's preached other than in his home church, and he's been very fruitful with that. So in January, here were some of his meetings. Notice they're wearing coats. I didn't think it got cold in Mexico, but it does. And on the right-hand side, there was a children's meeting, missions meeting. They had 49 adults during the daytime and 100 children later on. And then what was the fruit of it? 2 more were baptized. And this is December. And I don't see any heaters on that water. Sunset, International Bible Institute. It has one main purpose, and that is to share God and around the world and the people next door. And they do that in a lot of ways. So in 1962, they started a preaching school for Hispanic preachers. And it was at no charge. And it's continued to expand since then. And now they do other languages. They have 100 partner schools in 40 nations. They do a lot of instructions through the internet. And they have preaching schools on the internet. Many people attend from around the world and equip themselves. They use materials supplied by external studies, and around 3,000 around the world are taking courses right now. So it's a big, big organization. Some very smart people there. Global Relief Ministry, what does that mean? Well, after an earthquake, they showed up in Mexico City, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Houston after hurricanes, and then in Ukraine today. Um, it is a big movement in the Ukraine right now. We had, let me give the right numbers. 40 distribution points in the Ukraine, and these are all in churches of Christ. The churches have over 7,000 people per day served. They have resulted in baptisms, and it's estimated to be 3 to 5 times larger now in these churches than they were before the war. So a lot of times people are coming in for food and for comfort and for somewhere to sleep, and they end up accepting the Lord and working there. And then the last one is EEM, that Lanny Tucker was here talking about putting Bibles in the hands of people all over the world and doing awesome work. Great service work there, and that's where our young ladies were moved to have the beads for Bibles. We're almost done. I was going to tell you the story about EEM here for a second. There was a man named Masood from Afghanistan. He and his family left Afghanistan in 2015, and they ended up going through Turkey, Iran, and eventually to Greece. He was a defender of Islam, resisting the gospel message, but made a dramatic shift to follow Jesus, and that's what he did. So, after that, he and his wife, Anahita, and their children are faithfully serving God in Athens with online ministries. He's also the co-leader of the Farsi Bible Institute and leads the Afghan Association of Christian Pastors. So this is how Christ can turn people and let them understand that he is the answer. We've already talked about the Bibles for kids, and we know that it started March 1st that they're going to match that effort. And we've also talked at elders, we will match whatever the girls come up with. EEM Ukraine, an aid partner in Poland. So just across the border in Poland, when these people are fleeing the Russians and the army, many of them are, the first place they come to is a church where they're giving out food, and they are blessed, and then many of them accept Christ right there as well. We had 2 more in January. And this is the number that Josh was talking about earlier. Because of your generosity, 1,742,000 people received Bibles in 37 nations in 28 languages last year. That's a big number. It's God's work. And then the last one was Search and Rescue Ministries out of Edmond, and they're doing the work with India, with the training of the widows and the housing of the orphans. I appreciate your time this morning. I know that was really fast, but I think it's important to know that you're a small part, not a small part of this whole thing, that we're able to go forward and fund these great heroes that are out there every day serving, and it's awesome to be here and with you and know that we're making a difference in the world for Christ. That's all I've got. If anybody has a need this morning, you saw the baptisms occurring. If you need to be baptized today, if you want to accept the Lord, come forward as we stand and sing.